The federal government is saying banks have already started to freeze the accounts of people involved in the protests, and they are warning there will be dire financial consequences to come.
Hey, MCE crew. Okay, Canada has recently moved to make the emergency powers that allow them to seize bank accounts and shut down your business. They've recently moved to make those laws permanent. Okay, now they've got something similar to the United States, what we call the Patriot Act. They call it the Canadian Emergencies Act. And the basis of the act is for urgent, temporary, that's their words, situations. But now get this. They've never made this permanent against an external foe, okay? But they're making it permanent against their own citizens. Because they, again, realize that your freedom in this society, in this world that we live in today, is by and large predicated upon your financial independence, or the degree to which you have financial independence. Now, of course, you could be totally free if you decided that you want to build a cabin in the middle of nowhere, hunt and fish for your food, and make your own clothes. But we all know that most people are not going to do that. Most people don't even have the skills to do something like that, and that's fine. Okay, I'm all for learning new skills though, so you might want to look into some survival skills. I went out and became an EMT, or an emergency medical technician, at one point because I needed a hard skill. I used to be a lobbyist, and when the end of the world comes, then it's not going to be much of a need for legislative or regulatory advocacy. But anyway, the Canadian Emergencies Act, parts of it are being made permanent in order to quash the Canadian citizens' ability to protest against their government.
We know that financial institutions are already moving to restrict access to both cash and cryptocurrency. That's another big thing here that we're watching as well. So the RCMP have been sharing information with these financial institutions on the protesters, their supporters, the organizers here, trying to sort of starve off or choke off access to money, which of course has now been funding this for some 3 weeks. And the government has cited terrorist fundraising laws, now directing financial institutions to target people who have perhaps donated. You were talking about that with David as well, that it's a little murky here exactly how this is going to be applied to some people. Chrystia Freeland yesterday not saying how many accounts have been frozen, not saying whose accounts have been frozen, but certainly the threat is there looming for people who have been involved with all of this. We also know that some of these crowdfunding sites, such as GoFundMe, are going to have to register with FinTrack, which is the government's financial intelligence unit.
Now look, we've got some subscribers up in Canada. I'm not a Canadian citizen. I don't know much about their government, other than the fact that it's in some ways similar, set up similarly to the UK government. So I don't think they have a First Amendment. I know they don't have a Second Amendment. And I believe the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, is the head of state for the Canadians. So it's set up differently. I get that, okay? But if you look past this past, going on 3 years since we had the situation in 2020, a lot of small businesses came under attack and have been permanently shuttered. I talk about that all the time from the standpoint of the restaurants that my wife and I used to frequent. So many of them, I think about 6, and possibly a 7th, because we go to this Italian eatery like Subs and Pizza and whatnot. They said they were opening back up in January, and I drove over the other day. It's now February, and they're still not open, so it doesn't look good. But a lot of small businesses have been shut down. Meanwhile, if you look at the returns on the Walmarts, the Walgreens, the Amazons, they've done extremely well. And if you're an investor in those companies, and you've done good. However, if you are in the neighborhood and you were visiting a local business, restaurant, some sort of service business, now out of business because of government's heavy hand, the governors in America shutting down businesses, shutting down the economy, then, that's not so good. So up in Canada, what they've done is they're saying, look, if they find out that you have in any way donated or accepted donations in the furtherance of your protest against these government edicts, then you could lose your business, in this case, your truck. You could lose your insurance, okay? Again, so you're losing not only your means of income, if you're an independent truck driver, but you're also going to lose your insurance. And if you lose your insurance in that way on your business and your property, it's probably going to be difficult to ever get it again because of the way you lost it. The government is going to make sure that, these companies understand why you lost it. And, the companies are not going to want to run afoul of the Canadian government. So they're probably not going to issue it to you again, or they'll issue it with extraordinarily high premiums.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended. The consequences are real, and they will bite.
So what is the trucker? The independent trucker? He's a small businessman. He or she, buys that truck. They run around, Canada, America, delivering everything that's in our house, okay? And so when Justin Trudeau, the bastard son of Fidel Castro, more than likely, when he, mandated that these truckers, these independent businessmen, everybody in the country, get a certain medication to be separated from their income, the Canadian truckers said, nah, well, the hell with you. And they went to the capital of Canada and they formed a blockade, okay? And now the government is fighting back hard. And look, let's take this into another direction real quick. Money's one thing. That's what we talk about. That's what we focus on this channel. You cannot separate politics from money in this day and age, okay, if you ever could. But when you've got pictures coming out of women, and one of whom was in a walker being trampled by police horses, okay? Canada's got this reputation for being an extremely friendly people, an extremely friendly country. But then when you see that, you question a few things. You ask yourself, wow, why are they going so hard, okay? Well, one of the reasons why is because they want total control over your individual life. People like Justin Trudeau, who, by the way, he's indicted a lot. I never get tired of saying this. One of the things he kept coming at these truckers with was that they were racist, okay? Now, this individual, Trudeau, has appeared in blackface, okay, literal blackface, on numerous occasions. So I guess it takes a racist to know a racist, right? That's the go-to thing to try to... as a black man, this is how it's supposed to work. White liberal says racist, so I just automatically react, okay? And I abdicate my critical thinking skills, and I hear the word racist, and then I say, oh, okay, well, that's enough. I've heard all I need to hear. Trucker blockade and protest is a racist movement. Now I am against it. I'm supposed to be, robotic like that. White liberals think like that, man. They think that they can just come out and say stuff like that. And, as people of color, a black man, I'm supposed to automatically have a certain reaction. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, it's insulting for them to think that, people of color could be so intellectually void. So anyway, back to what's going on up there. They're shutting these businesses down if they dare. And they're sending a message too. They're saying, there's a new regime being created globally. We saw in the previous video about Turkey right now suggesting that they get the gold, okay, from the citizens. We're seeing more and more where governments of the world are targeting their own citizens for their citizens' money.
Because banks have essentially been directed not to have any sort of financial relationship with some of these protesters, which is going to make it very difficult for them to get access to bank accounts, to have a credit card, for example, which of course is pretty difficult to live this day and age without those sorts of things.
All right. So it's beyond taxation. Okay. It's beyond taxation. It's now become quite confiscatory in many, many ways. And they're dressing it up like Canada's calling its own truck drivers terrorists. You know what the truck drivers might want to do at this point in their protest is they might just want to say, well, the hell with it. We're not delivering loads. And, you know, what can Canada do then? What are you going to force them to do it? They might try. They might try to make their truck drivers slaves. But if the truck drivers, I would say if a good 10 to 15% of them just said, you know what, we're going to go out on a month strike, it would also have effects here in America on our supply chain. But that would speak volumes. Okay. So yeah, just stay at home, guys. Okay. Don't deliver. Don't pick up. Okay. That way, you know, you don't go to jail. You don't get your insurance taken away from you. You don't get your truck seized. You just stay at home. Okay. Netflix and chill. So that's what's going on. We've examined this issue. We're going to keep examining it because I want to drive this point home. I want to drive the point home that these governments are coming after your money. You've got to, there was a Kitco interview where they asked the guy, well, can they come after Bitcoin? And he said, yeah, they can. Now, admittedly, I don't understand all of the technology behind Bitcoin, but I do know they were able to seize the money that was held for ransom from the Colonial Pipeline. I do know that. The government was able to do that. This gentleman said that if you keep it in what's called a cold wallet, then it would become at least more difficult. I don't think that will pose a difficulty to the governments of the world. They have some of the smartest people alive, really, working on these issues, you know, behind the scenes.
Some of these protesters and the organizers were able to move cryptocurrency around very quickly, faster than the police could really get in to stop and intervene. So this is all about choking that off. In terms of what this means now, Heather, well, these people who've been named as defendants, they have a week to provide an affidavit showing their financial information, how it has contributed to this protest, to this convoy that we have seen over the past 3 weeks. If they refuse to do so, they could face a contempt of court charge.
So then he talked about gold, and he said, well, can they seize your gold? Well, they can try. Okay, how do they know you have it? Again, so I'm not saying that the only financial instrument you should own are precious metals. Far from that. I'm not suggesting that at all. Depending on your situation, you have to do your own due diligence. But, you know, right now, your government, I don't care where you live on this earth, is willing to classify you as a terrorist in order to seize your money and destroy you financially. So what you have to do is you have to always, look guys, it's not the 1950s anymore. You have to always be thinking, you know, how can I protect myself from my government? And you might say, well, I don't have any political opinions that I express. I just sit back and, you know, I chill, man. I don't get out there and deal with politics. Doesn't matter. What about the people in Turkey who might own, you know, some gold jewelry and are not involved in politics? In fact, in Turkey, you really are taking your life into your own hands when you involve yourself in politics, because if you say the wrong thing, it can have some serious consequences. So a lot of the people in Turkey, they don't express any political opinions either way. But that's not stopping the government from saying, we're looking at your possessions. We're looking at your wealth that you're holding in gold. We need that. All right, guys. So continue to track this. We will. I'll talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.